Are you in the middle of an existential crisis? Like maybe you just don't know what the meaning of your life is, and it has become absolutely critical to figure it out right now. Well, if you'd like to restore some balance to your life, then you're in luck because today's
Figure it out.
episode, we're going to be talking about dealing with and overcoming life's existential crises. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's
Right?
Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Now, it is important to kind of talk from experience. Have you actually ever had an existential crisis?
Yes, many times. I
Yeah, I know.
feel
Same
like
here.
I feel like I have them on a regular basis sometimes, but I think that's normal. No, it's part of life. Is feeling like things don't make any sense, nothing means anything, and you're disconnected.
Yeah, and especially the first time, it can be really confusing what the heck is going on because all of
Yeah.
a sudden you just feel like lost, right?
Well, yeah, it's fundamentally, I think, like it's a crisis of meaning, right? So you just don't like everything that seemed to have meaning before suddenly doesn't, and you do feel lost. You feel like you're like in a foreign place, in somewhere that's normally or used to be familiar to you, and that is a weird feeling when you think about it.
Hmm. Absolutely. And the cool thing is you can have these at pretty much any age.
Yeah, it is nice,
As
right?
long as
Right?
long as you're human, you qualify.
Yeah, all the time. It's great in any place too. It could be at work, could be at home, could be in the middle of a gathering with friends. Yeah. Have you ever
Yeah,
gotten
so
like the anxiety and depression side from it?
oh dude, I mean there have been times in my life when I've had all of those separately and also times when I've had all of them together. And it's crazy because the it's so intense when I've been in it that it actually makes me super scared that it'll happen again, and that just makes it so much worse. So
Mhm.
like I was almost while we were filming this right now, I was almost going to say that like I'm getting better at dealing with them, but in the back of my mind it's like don't say that because if you say
You
that
jinx it.
then you yeah, I know, right? Dude, it's like
Yeah.
it's crazy. But there, I mean, I found a resource very helpful for the last time I had like a full blown panic attack. The book Dare that was super
Yeah.
helpful for
It's a
that
good
time
book.
because
It is. Yeah.
yeah, it's oftentimes the fear of the actual event that makes it just worse.
Well, yeah, it just you just amplify it. It's crazy. Panic attacks they are the worst though. They
Hmm.
are.
Yeah, so we're going to be going over an article from the Cleveland Clinic talking about existential crises and kind of commenting on some of the suggestions. But to begin with, we'll start out with the definition for maybe those people who think our definition was just Bullock's terrible, or
Well,
maybe they want maybe they want a more, I guess, accurate definition from the Cleveland Clinic. So they say what does it mean to have an existential crisis? They say with existential crises there's usually a turning point and moment of awareness that's often linked with worrying about death. This turning point causes people to think about and question the meaning in their lives. They look at what they're doing and why they're doing it. They may have profound feelings of dissatisfaction about where they are in life.
yeah, it's pretty
And
normal.
and
Oh,
I'll
God.
just go on so we can have some more talking points. They state some things that could cause existential crises, like the death of a parent or a loved one, an illness, sudden change in circumstances or job loss, age-related health or life changes, kids leaving home. So those are just some of the things that they say
A
could potentially cause it.
pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic, economic, like the whole
Yeah,
world
yeah.
economy collapsing,
Having an
banks, like
economic
all, yeah.
crisis every like what 5 years or whatever that we have them now.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a
Yeah,
regular
right.
thing.
Yeah.
It's I would add to this too, I think that death is a central part of it, and it is just, it is fundamentally a crisis of meaning. I'd add to it too, though, I think these can happen too when you start to just question even like the basic meanings that you've adopted your whole life. Like I know one thing that's common for a lot of people is, especially when you're younger, you live your life, with other people's ideas, other people's views of what's good and stuff. And then you can realize that that's not right for you and you can have a crisis. I mean, this is essentially what happened to both of us, right?
Hmm.
At one point or
Yeah.
another. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because for me, probably one big one was what you were saying there was when I lived the life that everybody said I was supposed to live. And then I got there and I was the most dissatisfied I'd ever been in my life. I I went to good schools, I got good grades, I got a professional career, I was about to get married, and I was literally the most depressed I've ever been in my entire life. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, I had a bit of an existential crisis.
a little bit one, right? But it's that's I think that happens to a lot of people though. It's hard because on the one hand, it feels like everybody's telling you you're doing the right thing, right? And on paper, it looks good, but you don't feel good, and something
Mm-mm,
doesn't add up. Yeah.
no. One thing that I noticed in their definition of the existential crisis is that it's often linked with worrying about death. And the word worrying, because I was going to ask you when I was reading this the first time, I was like, we talk about Marcus Aurelius all the time, and he talks about death on a crazy, like everything. He just thinks
Every other
about death every
page.
day. Yeah, every other page. So I was going to say, like, does Marcus Aurelius have existential crises, or does he just think about death so much that he like doesn't have these? But I think the key may be that word worrying about death, because he thinks about it so much that he probably doesn't really worry about it that much anymore.
Well, I think too, a lot of like, especially, I mean, monks are like ancient, right? Like, they had a much different relationship to death. I think, the worrying part about it now, like, I'm sure he worried about dying. Yeah, for sure. He clearly did. I mean, he talked about it all the time. But I think there's a difference between the way he worried about it and his association with death and ours. Because so many of us now, I think, we just don't even think about it or we deny it. And so once it comes up, then it becomes a worry, like, especially if, like, someone dies close to you or something, or, something happens that gives you like a scare where now it becomes apparent, right? That thing's going to happen that you've been ignoring your whole life. So I think thinking about it and accepting it as part of life can be actually a good way to kind of not find yourself in this, at least related to death, not find yourself in that position of worrying.
True. And also, we talk about the Marcus Aurelius Four, where he's like, don't worry about the past, have faith in the future, love what is, and act right. And the whole have faith in the future, like part of that future is death.
Yeah.
So when you have faith in that future, you don't worry about it because you just, when it comes, you'll handle it.
Well, I think a big part of it too is just accepting the fact that it happens, right? Like you can't beat it. You can't, there's not much you can do about it. And I think it can, for a lot of people though, I think that can be terrifying because it's going to happen. And like, we don't know what happens afterwards, all the stuff with meaning and all is tied to it. For others, maybe it's, I think for a lot of existentialists, it's freeing in a sense, right? Because it means this is your life. You can do with it what you want. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter in a sense what you do because there's no overarching like objective truths.
Yeah, I've heard it say that the fear of death is the root of all fears. Like that's what a lot of the fears stem from is the fear of like we fear
Makes sense.
abandonment or criticism or things like that or looking foolish, embarrassment, but it's really because we fear death underneath that, or we fear heights, but it's really because we fear death. All these different things come down to really the fear of death, and so when you do have one of these events that makes you kind of question your whole life and what's the meaning behind it, then yeah, the fear of death could be underneath there because at the very least, like if you have one of these events that's life changing, you have to die to who you were before in order
Yeah.
to be born to whoever you're going to be in the future.
No, that's a great point, right? That like it's also like the death of a self in a sense, right? So that in order to be a new self, you have to kind of that old self has to die. And I know like when you're going through a transition in life, like when you realize like the certain things you're doing now are wrong for you and you're trying to change, it's hard sometimes because you do have to, in a sense, let that person go, that other you. And that might mean also like a lot of relationships might change, things you're doing are going to change, and it's scary and there's a lot of fear. So it doesn't have to be, I think it's a good point. It doesn't have to be literal death. It could be like death of like a self or a death of a way of life or something like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know from personal experience. Like recently, I last year it was just like probably one of the worst years of my life. Like I lost a ton of money.
Yay.
I lost a house that I loved. I lost a relationship that was a long relationship. So like a whole bunch of stuff happened, and it was it was very very difficult. And I would say probably I had an existential crisis at the time, but it was like I literally felt that like I had to let the old me die. This whole conception of who I was and what I and what that meant and these things that I thought I accumulated, all of this stuff I had to let it go in order to like be able to move forward. I felt that death and it was like excruciating.
It is hard, but I think that's the crucial point, right? When you have a crisis of meaning like that, like in order to move on, you have to let all that old stuff go. And a lot of times it means letting a lot go, right? Because the only way to overcome the crisis, overcome the problem, a lot of times is to change a lot and to change how you're thinking, to change what you're doing, change your environment, all that kind of stuff. And also just realize that things aren't as important as you made them out to be. Because that old self was attached to a lot of stuff, right? And sometimes
Hmm.
you have to get rid of it.
Definitely, definitely. I saw some lecture on gratitude, and it was pretty interesting because there was another dude who he was like a very successful CEO, and he was talking about how he used to keep a gratitude journal all the time, and it was like, you know, thank you for my multi-million-dollar house, thank you for this awesome car, thank you for these 3 or 4 women that I'm dating, thank you for this awesome company, and then he lost it all, and he he went through an existential crisis, and he
Obviously.
learned to have gratitude for like virtues, values, things like that. Like, thank you for love, thank you for patience, thank you for honesty, and like these things that no matter what happens in your life situations, you'll always have them. Maybe not to the greatest degree that you might have had them before, but you still have something, and you can be grateful for that.
Well, it is a trap, right? We get caught up in making these objects out to be more than they are. We give them way more value and we attach to them and they don't go with us. You know? I think you mentioned that last time we were talking about that. Like your values can go with you. They stay with you, they don't ever go away. So you always have them at least. And I think there is a big difference between the two. Between putting it in externals and putting it in, putting your gratitude in externals or in yourself. Huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're going to get into some solutions for how you can deal with an
Ooh.
existential crisis. Uh, and again, this will be from the article we'll link down in the description. But before we get into that, what did the existentialists say about meaning and about life? Like, what was their whole concept of that?
Well, like most of them rejected like any objective truths, right? And I think a lot of philosophies before that usually had some notion of that. A lot of, religions do and stuff. So they thought, life has no inherent meaning, and we have to then make meaning. We have to make meaning for ourselves. And so for most of us, because you're born into a community, you're born into a place, and there is meaning around you from the world you live in, right? You're gonna kind of by default adopt certain values, beliefs, practices, and most of us will struggle with as we get older, when we want to define ourselves, we're going to struggle with those old values, ideas, beliefs, all of that. And realizing that there is no objective truth, there's no ultimate meaning, I think it's central there, but that we make meaning. That's really important for them. So death becomes a factor in this, I think, because, we're going to die, so you only get one life. And so, for them, living authentically is like the ideal, right? You should be true to yourself because this one life is all you have. And so if you can live it that way, that's going to be the best. But that means you're going to struggle with meaning a lot throughout your life, right? Because, you might change, circumstances might change, all kinds of things that might cause you to struggle with something about yourself, meaning the world around you.
Now, wasn't the time period like right after World War II when a lot of the existentialists
Oh yeah, Sartre and
were talking
Camus,
about,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like the whole absurdity of life and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they just witnessed like the world, do they witnessed some of the most horrific events ever, right? And they saw people do some of the most horrible things people have ever done. And so, yeah, it was on their mind. When you put it in context, I think you can see why, like, they were asking questions like, how could a person, you know, um, accept like a command to gas a ton of people at once? Like, how could they possibly do that? Those kinds of questions I think are central to it. But it makes
Hmm.
sense, right? Because, if there is no truth, why aren't we acting for ourselves? Why aren't we living? Why aren't we more concerned with meaning? It is important.
Hmm. Yeah, I hear some critical viewers or listeners thinking like, what do you mean there's no meaning in life? Like, of course I need to get a house and need to have a
Yeah.
nice car and need to make a certain income and need to get married and raise a family. What are you talking about? No meaning in life, no predefined meaning. You guys are nuts.
Yeah. And you could say, well, look around. There's lots of different ways to live, right? There's lots of different values. We talked about that one time. Like you could go be a monk and live in a monastery somewhere and do that. You could go, out in the
Hmm.
woods and live on your own or do like homesteading. I mean, there's so many different ways to live, and I think we buy into what society tells us.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so with that, I think now that we can kind of recognize some of the ideas of the existentialists. Let's talk about how to deal with an existential crisis. I think they got 6 tips here for how to deal with an existential crisis. We'll go through them and then we'll give our opinions on what these things actually mean. So the first one that they have is adjust your viewpoint. And this says, take a look at the lens at which you look at this experience. Instead of looking at it as something bad, see it as an opportunity.
I actually like this one. I mean, I think perspective's crucial, right? If it is about meaning, and I think this is one of the key things for the existentialists. If there is no objective meaning, we make meaning. It's always possible to reinterpret things into a different way. Like a lot of people, like something bad will happen or ostensibly bad, and they'll be like, well, maybe it was just not the right time, or maybe, like whatever, and we tell ourselves these things as a way to kind of reinterpret it into a more positive light, right? It's not like it changes the situation. We're just reinterpreting its fundamental meaning for us. But I think that is a really effective tool. And something to keep in mind is that your perspective is all, how you see the world. So it's up to you.
Mm-hmm. And this is oftentimes one of the hardest things to do when
Yes.
you're in the middle of an existential crisis, because life looks so entirely bleak at those moments. And anybody listening who is in that crisis, there is a suicide prevention hotline. There's no shame in calling them to speak to somebody there. But it's something where adjusting your viewpoint can be so insanely difficult. I know personally, like, age helps so much.
Oh yeah.
If you're young, if you're going through your first existential crisis, it's going to be the hardest. So here's something that what is it called when you can relate one thing in life to another thing? I don't know. Anyways, so one of the things that I do is with the Wim Hof breathing is I do cold exposure. So I go do these ice baths, but also at my own house, I just put ice water in the sink and I'll just hold my hands in there for 5 minutes. And I know for a fact from experience from doing this, the first 2 minutes are the worst. After that, it's a cakewalk. But like the first 2 minutes is unbearable pain. And I know this is the way that it's going to happen. And I also, from experience with existential crises, know that the beginning sucks.
Yeah.
And and I know that it will get better. But it's just like dealing with that first initial suckage. You just have to stick with it.
And it's hard too, because I think at first too, it's hard to even, sometimes you don't even know, like, especially like when it's the first time it's happening, you don't even know what's happening. You might start experiencing like panic attacks, you might start feeling depressed, you might start losing interest in things, but it's like hard sometimes to kind of see all the dots connected until something else sometimes happens, or like you get like an aha moment or something. But yeah, it is hard at first. I think once you, like your point about age too, is once you've gone through these two a couple times or something, you also get the perspective of you've been through it, you at least understand what's happening, and that can be a lot. That can be very helpful in getting you over it, overcoming it faster and knowing what to do.
Mm-hmm. And also, no matter how bad it gets, that actually sets up your future for being equally that good.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
I think they're also good moments too, because like you can look at them as moments where you can make choices or change things that are right for you then to make it right. Like usually these happen because something's wrong. It's not like they happen because things are going great or right, So it's like it's a good opportunity to realize that your body, your brain, they're telling you something that you need to change something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So on to the next one. Number 2, keep a gratitude journal. And I don't think we need to actually read the definition for this one.
I think we're okay. I know what it is.
Yeah. But this one's huge. I mean, we've been talking since the beginning of our episodes about small delights. And that's an incredible practice where you just write the top 3 best moments of your day.
Yeah, I think it's super helpful. Like it's funny, like I don't know why I never like believe people when they talked about gratitude before, but like it's so crazy how much it impacts it impacts things and your perspective, because it's like it's like it forces you to just keep in mind the good things, and you start seeing how many good things there are. Like you can lose sight of it so fast. We take for granted so much stuff, and I think it just keeps you from doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the only people who are skeptical are the people who haven't tried
Yeah, literally.
it. They're like, man, that'll never work. No way,
That
not a
can't work.
chance.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that I got recently was the concept of savoring these moments.
Hmm.
So like, like the same way that you might like savor some coffee in your mouth, the taste of coffee, or maybe some wine, or maybe like some food, or maybe just a sunset where you just kind of like bask in that moment. So that's a practice that I've started doing with my small delights list at the end of the day. Is so I'll write the list and then I'll take a moment and I'll really just kind of like soak in that moment that happened today. And that's like been good for kind of getting into my system.
No, that's a good idea though too, because they always say like I know, and I do this with certain things like we tend to rush through everything, so like we don't taste the food we're eating. We don't like enjoy the conversations we're having because we're not really present. Like so, it does force you to be more present too, and actually like enjoy things in your life instead
Mm-hmm.
of rushing through it. Yeah, go on.
Absolutely. All right. So number 3, connect with people. Ew,
Oh
gross.
God.
Not people. Ew. Oh my God.
God.
I am a firm believer that pretty much the only thing that people actually want in life is just some validation.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, I
and
totally
they
think
can't
that.
get it
Yep.
anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all
Like
it is. All everyone
I,
wants to be
I
validated.
read this book called I Hear You that was kind of like talking about the secret skill of validation. And like 90% of conversations that people have, they're just looking for validation, like looking for someone to connect with the emotions they're having
Yeah.
at the moment. They're not looking for advice. They're not looking to change things. They don't want anything different. They just want someone to feel the same emotions they're feeling.
Well, it makes sense, right? Because like it's like, we are individuals living in a world. So it's like just to have other people like say, yeah, I hear you. It means a lot, right? Because it means like what that thing in your head is real. Like it's not fake,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
even like, I mean, even for people who are going through existential crises, they're not looking for somebody to say like, "Oh, don't worry, it'll get better," or
Yeah.
just get through it. Just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and get out there.
Ugh.
They're just really all they want to say is, "Yeah, this sucks," and I'm sorry you have to go through this, but it's just rough. That's
It
it.
is.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry you're having a tough time. That's it.
I think that connection too is important because I think like, having like a few close people you can talk to is helpful and like it can just bring you back into the world. You won't feel as isolated. You won't feel as alone. Like you said, like the validation, you won't feel like what's going on is, just an illusion or something that's actually happening. And I think that is crucial. Yeah. And also just
Mm-hmm.
saying it out loud can be helpful, can be a way to kind of overcome it. Like I am having these feelings. This is happening to me. This is actually something that I'm experiencing right now can be a good starting point for, awareness of it, recognition of it, and then being able to actually overcome it.
Mm-hmm. By the way, they mention in here the 3-digit phone number for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline,
Oh, that's out now?
988. Yeah,
Oh, look at that.
988.
Hey,
So you can check that out
I remember
if you
hearing
need it.
about that, but I remember it wasn't open at the time. They hadn't started. They were like getting it ready or
See,
something.
and there's no harm in calling it because it's not just a suicide prevention hotline anymore. It's a suicide and crisis lifeline. So if
Yes.
you're having a crisis or you have a life, you can give them a call.
Yeah,
That's
there you
pretty
go.
cool. Yeah, 988. Uh, yeah, another thing that I wanted to mention about connecting with people is so like it's extremely hard to connect with people nowadays.
Yes.
So, but I have found that some of the 12-step programs very, very helpful for connecting with people. So if you're looking for a group of people who are non-judgmental in your area, go look up some 12-step programs.
Yeah.
Also, a counselor, a therapist. These are people who are skilled in validating you.
Yeah.
Like that's their
That's
job.
their
Like
job.
literally, you get married, you get a wedding planner. Your plumbing breaks, you get a plumber. Your car breaks, you go to a car mechanic. Well, your emotions are broken, you go to a freaking counselor. Like don't
Isn't
try
it
and
funny
don't
that we're
try and
so
white knuckle
resistant?
it. Yeah, I know, dude. It's hilarious. We're like, I can't. Mental health is terrible. I should be perfect all the time.
There's
No
no
going to counselors.
professionals in that area.
Dude, even counselors go to counselors.
Yeah,
I had
which is
this year, the first book I've read this year was Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. It's basically a great story about a counselor who's going to another counselor because of their life problems. Like even a counselor, a skilled professional who's able to deal and handle other people's problems when they have really bad life problems, they go to a counselor.
well, it just shows you though too that you can know all the answers, but it doesn't mean you still don't need that extra help, you know?
Dude, look at us. I mean, it's from watching our episodes, it seems like we have all the answers, but man, we struggle with problems on a regular
All the
basis.
time. When I'm not talking to you, it's really hard to remember what the answers are.
I know, right? Dude, so crazy.
Uh,
All right. So number 4 is practiced mindfulness.
this is a good one. Just in general,
Mhm.
I think, you got to be, I think just being more aware of yourself, of what's going on is just one helpful. Being more present in the moment's really good. And also just being more aware of yourself so like really, because I think a lot of these crises come from not having your own values, not having created them. I mean, we're meaning makers. You got to make meaning. So if you're not doing that, you're gonna have a fundamental problem. So being mindful too of what matters to you, what your goals are, what's important, that can all be very helpful in overcoming this stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of problems come from just not being present to what's here right now
Yeah,
and
yeah.
trying to like shove it down. Like I know 3 particular times in my life I've gone to counselors, and all 3 of them have been like, yeah, you should practice mindfulness a bit more. And I'm like, I have been meditating. And they're like, yeah, well, maybe just practice some more
Not enough.
I'm like, geez, come on. I'm like, that can't be the answer. But I was actually thinking about that today. I was like, maybe that is the answer because we are so disconnected from life nowadays. Like, I was thinking, I was like, the whole mindfulness thing, that definitely the 70s was when the whole mindfulness thing started. And I was like, so what are you going to say? Like counseling before then, they just didn't have any useful techniques. They were just like, well, I don't know how to fix
Go
this.
to the
You're kind of screwed.
sanatorium.
And then in the 70s, they're like, hey, mindfulness, that's the answer to everything. But I was like, well, probably back then, people spent time outside. They they weren't distracted all the time. So they may not have the same type of like mindless problems that we have nowadays. So practicing mindfulness probably makes a bit more sense
Huh.
nowadays.
Think about how often, I mean, like, how many people, both yourself and others like, just don't face anything though. We just distract ourselves. We run away from things. We deny things all the time. So it's like,
It's so much easier than actually dealing with it.
well, yeah, it seems like it, right?
Actually, avoidance is one of my favorite coping strategies because avoidance is coping with things by not coping with them.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah,
It's the best way.
yeah.
Oh God.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so number 5, redirect your energy.
This is
This
a
is an
good one.
interesting one. Yeah, because like you're probably in some crisis and you probably feel like, well, you may feel pretty low energy. I think in my existential crises, I was probably pretty low energy, but I also wasn't doing anything. I'm pretty sure almost every time I spent all day in my room.
Yeah. Yeah. You turn off, right, from doing anything and try to avoid it. And I think like redirecting energy is a good one because, they use the example in here of the pandemic, right? Like there's so many changes abruptly and people are facing. And you can focus on the change and be upset about it and, down, or you can take control of the what you can and make changes. You could change, learn new things. You can, I'm thinking of the pandemic right now, right? Learn new things. You can start exercising. There's lots of things you could have done because you had the time to all of a sudden. And I think that's the idea, right? It's like instead of focusing on just the negative thing, think about what do I have the power to actually do? What can I actually change? How can I actually think about this differently instead of being like a problem as like an opportunity? And that flipping it can be really helpful.
Dude, and it oftentimes with a lot of this stuff, it's because we're so inward directed, like so self-directed. We're like,
Yeah.
woe is me, poor me, my life, blah, blah, blah. Or at least I'll speak from personal experience.
I wish
That's
everybody
how I
else was
get.
dead.
That's
Yeah.
that's my problem is I get all woe is me. Like,
Yeah.
and so oftentimes with redirecting your energy, how I see that is like becoming externally focused and focusing on other people. Like actually, when you're connecting with other people, asking how they're doing, what they're up to in life, what challenges they're facing, what's giving them problems. And then particularly, this is my secret sauce right here, is actually being generous with other people. So oftentimes for me, it looks like volunteering, doing things for other people. And I don't do this because I'm a good person. I want to make that very, very clear. I do this because it makes me feel good.
That's
Like,
fine. Yeah, it's good. It's a
yeah,
good reason.
yeah. Because like the Dalai Lama, he says the most selfish thing you can do is be generous. And I know for a
Yeah.
fact that when I'm helping other people, it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, yeah, it's good. It helps them out and it makes their life better, but also it makes my life a lot better too.
Well, it's a great thing to do too because it has, it's the type of action you can do that has a clear purpose. There's a clear goal. It has clear meaning, and it's tangible, right? It's easy to see. And I think that's why it's valuable in that sense.
And oftentimes, so often when you're volunteering, you see people who have life worse than you.
Yeah.
And you can compare yourself instead of comparing yourself to everybody's
Yeah.
Instagram profile, you can compare yourself to some real people's lives that's actually a lot worse than yours, and then you can be grateful for what you have.
It also makes you aware of what you have that you can offer other people as valuable, right? So that you have
Mm,
value. And I think that's also, yeah, also crucial.
good
It's a good
point.
one.
Yeah. So number 6 is don't dwell on the past.
Right?
Yeah. They stole that one from Marcus Aurelius.
They did. They totally. That's crucial though. It is like super important though, because I think this is where most of us struggle is we live in the past, we're not living in the present, right?
Hmm.
You think that you can never get over this thing or that it defines you and you're letting it define you instead of defining yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that there's like, we learn in childhood the rules that'll get us through life. Don't cry over spilt milk and don't cross your bridges until you get to them. And yet we still have these problems all the time where we're living in the past
Yeah.
or in the future. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, forgetting the past is important. And this is why, for me, the Marcus Aurelius 4, which I think is from book 12 of the Meditations, could be book 10, but I think it's from the beginning of book 12. And where he basically says, let go of the past, have faith in the future, love what is, and act right. And I wrote these down for a while, and I just remember them now because anytime I'm stressed, it's because I'm not doing this.
Well, what I like about it too is it's reminding you to stay present, right? Do what you can that you have the power to do, right? So you can act right in the moment. And as long as you're doing the right things now, things will be fine. Don't worry about
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, because guaranteed I'm stressed right now because I'm trying to change the past or I'm trying to change the future, and I can't do either of those things.
yeah, right. You're trying to guarantee a future is going to happen that you can't guarantee. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that, in a nutshell, is how they recommend
It's a
dealing
good
with an
list.
existential
Yeah.
crisis. Yeah, yeah. Anything else that you can think of?
I would say too, one thing to keep in mind is it happens to everybody. And I think again, I would say like at least for me personally, I think as you have them realize that it's an opportunity to maybe change yourself or to maybe do things right that you're not doing right or get things right that you're not getting right and make your life better. Because I think one
I
of the
really,
one of the yeah, one of the dangers like the existential self is like that these can be moments where we run back to our old values. And so instead of like doing something new or seeing things differently, we kind of hide in our old cave, instead of breaking out of it. So I think look at it as an opportunity. They are good moments to actually really get things right.
that's good. Don't cry to quit, cry to keep going. There
Yeah.
you go. I really like what you said there, but I totally forgot what you said right there.
But about
Oh,
viewing it as an
no,
opportunity.
here's what it is. Here's what it is about realizing that it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So there was just this really good book that I read called Self-Compassion by Dr. Kristen Neff.
I thought you were gonna say
And
everybody poops.
it happens to everybody.
It does.
Except for, yeah. Anyways, so in that book, she was talking about 3 steps to self-compassion. So 1, be mindful of what's going on. 2, recognize that it happens to everyone. And 3, how can you be more kind to yourself? Be kinder to yourself.
Yeah.
And so, like, especially when you're going through an existential crisis, like, recognize what's going on. And one way that she mentioned that was really helpful that I've been doing as I've been walking around to recognize actually what's going on right now is what are 5 things you can see? What are 4 things you can feel? What are 3 things you can hear? What are 2 things you can taste? What's 1 thing
You mean
That
train
whatever.
yourself to be actively aware of your senses?
Yeah, yeah, right. So
Yeah, we
like
tune a
you,
lot out though. We tune an insane amount out though. It's crazy. Like
yeah,
we do. Yeah.
and it's like it takes 20 seconds to do, and instantly you're brought to like here and now. So like that's the
Good
first
idea.
part. Be mindful, especially when you're having an existential crisis, because guaranteed you're not here.
Yeah. No.
Guaranteed you're like, oh, my future's gone. My whole life is of rest. I'm never going to. Guaranteed you're not here. So like, come back to here. And if you're in pain, that sucks. This is a
Yeah.
moment of suffering. That sucks. But guess what? Buddha said life is suffering. A lot of people suffer. There's a lot of suffering in the world. So that's the second part. Recognize the common humanity. Like, you're suffering right now. Other people suffer in
Yeah.
life. Guess
Yeah.
what? I mean, from the deepest depressions that I had in my life, I can now actually relate to people who are depressed, which
Yeah.
is the coolest thing ever. Because when they're suffering before I was depressed, I'd be like, come on, get over it. What's wrong with
Yeah.
you?
No clue what it
Now
was,
they're
right?
depressed. Now they're
Yeah.
depressed, and I'm like, oh my God, like that sucks. Like really bad. I'm sorry
Yeah.
that you're going through this because that sucks. And so like recognize that it happens to other people. And then how can you be kind to yourself? Like you're suffering right now. It's happening. What's the kindest thing you can do to yourself right now?
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that. And
Mm-hmm.
like reminding yourself just to be easy on yourself too, because it does, it happens. You get it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good list though. I liked it.
Yeah. So that was fun. We'll post that down in the description
Yes.
for anybody who wants to check it out. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you did enjoy it, like, share, subscribe, give it to your friends, family, other people, and somebody going through an existential crisis, maybe.
Perfect.
Right? Yeah. You can check us out twice a week on YouTube, also wherever you get your podcasts. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.